I know the distinguished senator from Vermont wants so badly to believe that the science is settled and that anthropogenic gases cause global warming, and the science is not settled. I mean, Phil Jones is the scientist at IPCC. He's the top guy. He was the one at East Anglia that came up where it's kind of the clearinghouse for all the scientists who's under investigation right now. And he said 2 weeks ago, I don't believe the vast majority of the climate scientists think the debate is over. This is a clear statement by the guy who's in charge of all this stuff. So, you know, you can want to believe something so badly that you just go ahead and believe it, and I guess that's all right. Now, because of the short time, I'm going to ask two questions that require just a yes or a no answer, or I don't know, or I don't want to answer. I don't care, either way. One of your quotes, Madam Administrator, was that the EPA's view that, quote, the scientific assessments of the IPCC represent the best reference material for determining the general state of knowledge on the scientific and technical issues of climate science. Do you still agree with that statement?
I think it's out of context, Senator. The IPCC is certainly important. It represents multiple lines of evidence and much data.
Okay, well, this was a statement. I want to ask you one other question. Over the past several weeks, as I've noted in my opening statement, the media has uncovered significant errors and non-peer-reviewed material in the IPCC's fourth assessment report, including mistakenly claiming that global warming would melt the Himalaya glaciers by 2035, endanger 40% of the Amazon rainforest, slash crop production by 50%, and others that are on this that I use in my opening statement. Now, do you still believe, as you've stated before, that the IPCC is the gold standard for climate change science?
The primary focus of the endangerment finding was on climate threat risks in this country. I noticed that all of the things listed on that sign are international events. So the information on the glaciers and other things doesn't weaken or undermine the science that EPA reviewed to look at the endangerment to human health and welfare.
Okay. Administrator Jackson, many in the media has been by and large almost entirely on their side of this issue all the time, because that's where they can sell the stuff. But the media and the scientific community have called on the IPCC to launch a full investigation or to institute reforms on how the review's scientific work. Now, I would think at least we would agree that if everyone else in the country, and the magazines like Time Magazine, Newsweek, New York Times, Chicago Tribune, the Financial Times, and almost all publications in Europe are calling on investigations and are doing investigations, would you be willing to ask the EPA IG to investigate the IPCC science?
The investigations that are ongoing mirror reviews that EPA scientists did in making the endangerment finding. It is incumbent on me as administrator to review any new information as it comes out, and if anything changes, the multiple lines of evidence from many sources, Senator, not just the IPCC, then certainly I would call for a review of the finding. But I have not seen that.
I would say that no, I don't think that's totally accurate. The statement that you said in response to me in a letter, and this was, I don't have the date on it, just a short while ago, quote, where's that chart? Hold the chart up, that one. This is the chart where we were showing during the last hearing, or one of the last hearings, we had about 40 hearings on this, that U.S. action alone will not impact the CO2 levels. Your quote was, I believe the central parts of the EPA chart, this chart right here, are that the U.S. action alone will not impact world CO2 levels. Now, that's a statement I think we all agree on, and it complicates this, because when you talk to normal people, and I'm talking about people outside of Washington, and you point out to them that even if we were willing to have passed some kind of cap-and-trade legislation, or do it legislatively, or do it through the administration, that it's going to cost all the jobs, and you know, people would deny this on the other side, but MIT, the Wharton School, CRA, all of them agree that this would constitute something like a $300 to $400 billion tax increase on the American people, that it would destroy our economy. And with all of that in mind, I would just say this. Now, I'm going to save this for the second round of questions, but I want you to be thinking about it. How in the world can we justify doing something administratively that the Congress overwhelmingly rejected, that the United States Senate did, and saying defiantly, we don't care what you say, Congress, we're going to go ahead and do it under the Clean Air Act. We're going to make the endangerment finding, in spite of the fact that the endangerment finding, by your own admission, is due to the science from the IPCC. Now, that's what I'm going to be talking about in the next round of questions.
Do you want me to answer now or
Sure.
wait for the next round? Senator,
Inspired, but I think you should answer the question.
I will be brief, and we'll talk about it in the next round, Senator. But just to be clear, the Supreme Court, the law of the land, found that greenhouse gases are pollutant. They ordered EPA to make a determination as to whether
They didn't order it. They said you have three choices. Isn't that correct?
They said that EPA must make a determination
You said it right the
whether
first
or
time.
not must make a determination whether or not greenhouse gases endanger human health and welfare. And rather than ignore that obligation, I chose as administrator, and I believe I had no choice but to follow the law.
Well, the three choices they gave you were to go ahead and find an endangerment, don't find an endangerment, or review the science. And that's obvious. So those are the three choices that were there.
And I believe we've reviewed the science, Senator. We don't agree on what the science says, but in my mind, the conclusions we've drawn are based on the best science we have and are backed up by numerous bodies who are a lot smarter on these things than I am. My favorite quote on this is actually by Senator Alexander, who sadly is also not here. He said, 11 academies in industrialized countries say that climate change is real and humans have caused most of the recent warming. If fire chiefs of the same reputation told me my house was about to burn down, I would buy some fire insurance.
And that's the debate that's been going on here for 7 years.
I
and
know.
I recognize that it was 7 years ago that I made the statement that the idea of the anthropogenic gases are causing catastrophic global warming is probably the greatest hoax ever perpetrated on the American people. I think that's proven to be true today.